sure. But definitely, you're in your comfort zone if you're in your safe space, and I think that's another thing why I prefer it, because I have my keyboards all wired up, ready to go, so someone can hop right on that. But if it's a band setting and they want to play and they want to record at this one cool spot, it's that can be a lot of fun too. So yeah, there's no one right or wrong way to do it, and that's what makes this art very interesting, or this whole process.
Yeah, totally. Hey everyone, you may have heard me mention before that I recently started a Discord server for the podcast. If you want to join the conversation over there, you can find a link in the show notes or on the homepage of this podcast at secretsonics.co. In the coming days, I'm going to be sharing a sample pack there with some of my own personal samples that I use all the time in my productions. This pack will only ever be shared on the Secret Sonics Discord server, so I hope to see you there soon. All right, back to the episode. I want to ask you a little bit about work. How do artists find you, or how do you find them? How does work come through your door?
Well, that's been something that I feel I haven't really had to work hard at doing, like advertising and stuff. Luckily, I think being a musician and being out playing original music, you're networking and you don't even realize it. You're meeting other musicians, and then they're like, hey, actually, the whole way this thing began was I released a record that my brother and I made, and it was the first record that I think I'd done like in Pro Tools maybe. And I just kind of gave it, sold it out, and I had like two different bands, one solo artist and one band, say, hey, do you ever think about recording other people? And I'm like, I guess, like for money kind of thing, and they were like, yeah. I'm like, sure. So it all kind of happened as an accident, just by being a musician and meeting these other people and them liking a recording. So the more I think that you do, the more recordings that you do for different artists, I mean, those are business cards for you, like those are legit business cards. They're going to do better than an ad. A good record by a good artist is going to do better things for you than any advertising, I think, could do. So, just networking, meeting different people, and them trusting you enough as a person to let you try to make this recording. And I think early on, I was always just really taken back that people would trust me enough to do these things, and when I'd only done like a handful of albums, but I think the hang is so important. The time away from the making the music part. So, I pretty much try to get along with everybody, and I have an easy time just being kind of laid back, and we all have something in common. We really do. So just finding that one thing and having some good laughs and pulling up goofy YouTube videos once in a while whenever the tension gets a little heated or whatever. You just got to kind of know when to push those buttons. So most of it, 100%. Well, actually, all of it's just been word of mouth and networking. It's all been kind of from that point. So in Michigan, it's funny. It's funny
relationships,
relationships. Yeah, and Michigan's a funny state because we have a really tremendous singer-songwriter scene across the state. We've got some great singer-songwriters. And I've been lucky enough to kind of get to work with a lot of them. And, you meet one, they make a record, they give it to 3 other people and say, hey, working with Andy was so much fun, or whatever. We was so laid back, it didn't feel like work, whatever. And that's enticing to people. And when you're working in my home, my price point's definitely lower if they go into a big room, obviously. Right. That's huge. So they can spend more time on the creative side and not worry about the overall bill being ridiculously high. So, it's been just a nice snowball effect over the years. And now I'm to the point where I'm able to just kind of produce, and people send me demos, and if I don't think it's a good fit for them or me, I won't just say no. I'll help them find, because I know so many other producers in the state that do tremendous work. It's like, you should call this guy because he's really, really, really good at what you're trying to do with this record. And I think that just not only the relationships with the artists, but also the other producers and engineers has helped me too, because then they'll send me stuff that might be in more my wheelhouse. And I never would have guessed that it would have been that way, but thankfully it has, and it's been really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. The referral thing is such a move because you never know. Like, I have a rapport with another audio engineer in Jerusalem, John Friedlander, who's been on the show, and like it's just great. Like, I'm able to send him work, he's able to send me work and like one of his nightmare clients was a great client for me, and some of my nightmare clients are great clients for him. So it's like. It's just great that we're able to kind of say like I'm too busy now, like reach out to John, or he's got a better facility for recording drums and whatever. But just having that kind of rapport with another person is just like so huge, and just or people,
Right.
It's just great to it always comes back to you. You know what I mean? You're when you scratch somebody's back, it ends up the karma goes both ways in the end,
Yeah,
So.
and you're not creating a competitive environment. Like I've never felt in competition with anybody, and I don't. Maybe I'm just naive and I didn't think about it that way. But I'm always kind of rooting for everybody because it's like we're all making music, even if it's a genre that I'm not into. It's like, I want this person to make their record and get their emotions out in their art. So there is the right person for that artist, whether they're just a 16-year-old kid who wants to make a rap album. It's like he's got something to say. He called me, even though like I don't do hip hop. It's like he called me because I'm a studio. So this kid wants to make this music. So I want to help him find that spot for him to do so. So and I guess that's just like people were nice enough to help me out on the way up, and it feels good to help them too. And then
that's awesome.
And then you never know, like 6 years down the road, they might have a rock and roll band and they go, man, I called this guy and he really helped me out. And then they want to go make a rock record with me, so you just never know.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you mentioned sometimes obviously it's a great fit, and sometimes you want to refer them to somebody else. What exactly are you looking for in an artist, to say, hey, like, yes, I definitely want to work on this music. What's your hell yes?
Well, it's definitely, the music, and if it moves me to a point where it's like I have to do this album for sure. Personality's huge, like what is this person's vibe? If they're a little too intense and a little too high strung, that might be something that I might not be the right guy for, because I like to make it a little more relaxed atmosphere, even though I do like to work fast, There are a lot of just little factors. I mean, I think you kind of just know or you don't. But probably the music is the big thing, 100%. Because, like I said, luckily I've been to a situation where I'm able to pick and choose a little bit more. And if someone does come to me to make a record at this point, I probably know who they are, and I probably heard their music, and I'm like, yes, I've been a fan of the last 2 records you made. I'm in, and you know enough about them. So even if it's like, hey, my friend Amy referred me to you, it's like, okay, I know Amy would only send me someone that I would love. You know what I mean? So it's like you build these trusts through the artists you work with, and if they make the referral, then the person's a keeper kind of thing. You know what I mean? So and
totally.
It's really just become this weird little family, and everybody's in on everybody else's records, singing backgrounds or whatever. It's been so much fun, and the more that we do that, the more, because people are starting to work on their 3rd or 4th records. It's like, how do we shake this up? How do we shake this up? It's like, okay, well, let's get someone else in on this. Let's get someone else in to write songs and whatever. So everybody's just trying to use the best resources that we have to make the best records possible. And that usually includes working with other artists that I work with. So that's been fun too. But yeah, I think it's just the music is it's got to be there. If I'm going to put myself like 100% into it kind of thing, it's like I don't want to shortchange them either. It's like, man, I'm not sure if I like, it's not hitting me or something like that. It's not fair to them for me to take the paycheck. You know what I mean? So I want someone that's going to be all in on their music to work on their music. So yeah, that's huge.
Awesome. Well, I wanted to ask you, I know you also do some like mixing and mastering work, not just the, song creation process. Do you get like, what does that look like? How much of your work is actually like mixing and mastering, or how much of it is just like full on production?
Yeah, most of it is full on production, but I definitely have kind of encouraged a lot of people, if their budget's too high to record with me or whatnot, and they really want to take their time with it, I've definitely helped them get their own home recording set up and try to encourage them to make the record that way. And then, then I can mix it and master it. When quarantine happened, it was a lifesaver, because I think a lot of people ended up recording at home just because they had to. So I really kind of pushed the mixing and mastering at that time, which worked out well because I was homeschooling my daughter and I could only do mixing and stuff at night. And I wasn't doing a lot of tracking sessions at that time. So I would say probably about 10 to 15% of my business is just mixing and mastering. So the production is definitely the biggest chunk. Absolutely. Which I like. I'm very happy with that. But once in a while I'll get a record in to mix and sometimes, different things to master. And, I always explain to people, it's like, this is just being honest here. It's like, I'm mastering at this price point because this is what I feel I'm able to bring to it. It's like if you spend double this, you're going to get like a mastering engineer that only masters. So I'm just explaining where things are at. And a lot of people, they just want that little bit extra help to kind of get them over the finish line, which I'm happy to do. So, but lately, even if it's like something if I produce and I mix, I used to master all that stuff, and I've been outsourcing it with a couple other people now. It's just ended up being so much better. I get my ears away from it. You're getting more creative input from another professional, and it's been
amen.
Yeah, it's been so much nicer that way. But if it's something that I didn't record, I will gladly master it, because I'm bringing in an extra set of ears to kind of get it to a certain place as well. So, so I love mixing. I absolutely love mixing. And it's probably the most challenging thing for me, mixing someone else's work, because I'm just kind of you get so used to the way you do things. And so it really makes you a little uncomfortable, it really does. And I'm okay with that, because you really need to, this whole thing is problem solving, and we're just trying to figure out the best way to put these little puzzles together, and just that little journey and getting it to that certain place. It's like, yes, we did it, So yeah, I really do enjoy mixing and mastering other people's work. I do. I wish I was able to do more than I do, but like I said, the bulk of my time is in production work, which that's where my real heart is, for sure. And when I'm tracking with somebody and we're making a record here, I definitely like mixing as I go, because I feel like if we get this sound dialed in the way we want it, that's going to influence this next bit that we're going to work on. So and then when they do their vocal, they're singing the way the record's going to sound. So I try not to steer too far away from that and then have to spend, 8 hours mixing from scratch. I'd rather just kind of do it as we go, kind of thing. And that's kind of how I do that. So when you get this set of files and, nothing is dialed in, it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? So it's great. and I'm definitely the type of person that I know I have so much more to learn. I listen to records by my peers, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, that just blows me away. I feel like with every project like that you get that someone else recorded, you're learning something instantly, because you're like, oh, that kick drum's kind of cool. I never would have done it that way, but I love it, and you're able to talk to the engineer that recorded it and share ideas and stuff. So it's great, man. I really love that side of it as well. But in the same token, it can be a little challenging, because you will get some people that will make a record and then they'll be like, hey, I want it to sound like the Foo Fighters' last album. And then you listen to the files and you're like, man, I can't make it sound like the Foo Fighters album. you know how that goes. So a lot of it is just being realistic with people and say, look, I'll get it to sound as big and rocking as I can, and then we'll just go from there, and just try to like find that middle ground with people too. So yeah, it has its own set of challenges, but I love it just the same. And I think with the way the world is going and with the way home recording is booming, I think I'm going to be doing a lot more mixing and or like people will send me a song sometimes and be like, "Will you add production to this and then mix it?" You know, like here's the bones.